All right, I'm on. I'm so glad I have a seat because I really hate walking around. Get over. All right, hey, welcome. So last time I was in this venue, I was watching a band called Tainted Love, a really awesome 80s cover band. The bass player was my son's bass teacher, so it was particularly exciting for him to watch that guy rock. This is a slightly different thing here, so I will try not to sing, although I can't promise I won't sing. I was sort of asked to speak broadly about this question of entrepreneurship. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a venture capitalist. I've been at a firm called August Capital for the last almost 15 years. I was telling a gentleman in the back here that, because he said, "Oh, do you do a lot of these things?" I said, "Yeah, I'm happy to talk about entrepreneurship. I used to do it when I just joined the venture business and I didn't actually know anything, but I'd still pontificate. I feel like, decade and a half in, at least I have some sense of the things that have looked like they've worked, the things that are challenging, and in particular, the things that are compelling to me as you all get to venture investors, as you get to the point where you say, okay, I'd like to introduce you to my company, I'd like to introduce you to my team, I'd like to get you excited about what we're doing, and hopefully you ultimately fund me. But I thought I'd start with the fact that, there are over 1,000 people here today, which is astonishing. It is why Silicon Valley continues to be this amazing hub of innovation and entrepreneurship. It's people that you can say, hey, we're going to have a startup event, and 1,000 people show up, and they have these sets of conversations. But what people rarely acknowledge in these events, because they could say, I could tell you, I had this company I funded, it was called Splunk, and there were these 3 founders, I really liked them, I thought what they were doing was interesting, I funded their company, and those 3 people turned into more than 1,000 people today. The company is a $5.5 billion company. You look at that, you go, wow, this is amazing. You can go from 3 people to 1,000, you can build a public company, and we're always talking about those, right? We love to talk about those, because who wouldn't, right? Have a couple of kids and one's a dropout and one's at Harvard, you talk about the Harvard one, not the dropout. And my Harvard kid is awesome. Don't you have another son? Never met him. I don't know, and in particular in venture, you go ask a VC about the companies that didn't work, and they're like, well, I think I remember that. Like, you were on the board for 7 years. That CEO is one of your best friends. Oh, I love that guy, but I don't think I was on that board. Like, you totally were on the board. Like, trust me, you were there. Have I told you about Splunk? Because it's awesome, Like, yeah, you told us about Splunk. We're sick about the Splunk thing. So I wanted to at least start with this idea that actually entrepreneurship is insane, right? That all of you who are engaged in entrepreneurship are insane. Because if you did the math, if you looked at the question of whether this was a good idea or not, simply on a statistical basis, the answer is, it is a terrible idea. This is a bad idea. You should not say, I am going to leave a very stable job where I am being paid a salary to go take an unstable job where I have to produce something from nothing, and I will put it on my credit card because that'll totally work out fine, And then once I get it going, I'm going to convince some other people that they should totally stop whatever they're doing in their stable jobs to come join me and give me their credit card, That's insane. And that's just the beginning, and then you have to convince an angel. I'm going to convince angel investors to then give me money, and and then if God forbid you're an enterprise company, because then you have to go convince enterprises to use this thing. Hey, you big enterprise that has this really stable infrastructure. I've got this crazy thing I just built in 12 minutes. You want to put that in with your other stable stuff? Like, yeah, I totally want to do that, right? Of course they don't want to do that. So you have to actually convince them to do things that are really crazy. So I often liken the entrepreneurship process to this bucolic scene we've all seen, the nature footage of the birth of the baby turtle. Have you seen this nature footage? I wish I had it. It would be so awesome. In fact, in the future, that's the only thing. They said, David, do you have any slides? I'm like, I'm incapable of doing slides. I don't have slides, but next time I'll have this video. So the video is, as you can all picture it, right? There's this beautiful, pristine beach, and all of a sudden, poking their little heads out of the sand, they're breaking through out of their eggs, are these little turtles, and they poke their heads out of the sand, and they're so cute. And they have but one mission, and their one mission is get to the ocean. Like, look, step one to avoid dying is get to the ocean. So these little guys, they poke their heads out. And first of all, they have flippers. They suck at walking on the sand. So it's like, get to the ocean. Half of them turn towards the woods. Some of them just like spin in circles, and the sun dehydrates them, But some of them, miraculously, like you startups, some of them point in the right direction and flipper their way on their credit cards towards the ocean. And you're cheering them on, right? You've watched this, you're cheering them on. Yes! Go, little turtle! Go! And then the birds show up, right? And the birds are like, oh, it's breakfast! Boom! Boom! They're just eating these little guys as they're heading towards the ocean. Oh, no! They were so cute! And now the birds are eating them. And 1 in like 100. I should find out what the real number. Any experts know what the actual number is? What number of baby turtles actually make it to the ocean? It's like, what is it? 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000 gets to the ocean. You're like, yes, they think it succeeded. And then all the big nasty ocean things are like, now I will eat you. But I think of that as like angel funding, right? You get to the ocean, you've got angel funding. Now good luck to you, right? So this is the world that you guys live in, right? It isn't a kinder, gentler world. It isn't like, okay, it's all good, and we like dig up the baby turtle and we carry you to the ocean and we protect you. And you got to make your own luck. And it's hard and it's painful. But man, you have to say these turtles that are lying on the coast out there when you go and visit in Hawaii are pretty spectacular. And I think that ultimately that's the goal. The goal is to be this spectacular beast that has conquered all this adversity. So let me just say this before I talk about venture capital, because I think that venture capital is the thing. It's what I do, right? My job is a crazy job. I basically am given a bunch of money by a set of institutions, Yale and Ford Foundation, whatever. They say, David, here is money. Please go turn it into more money. That is the mandate of my job. It pains me when I have to fill out a survey that I have to check financial services, because that is my job. But what I do has nothing to do with that. What I do is then meet with a bunch of smart, interesting people and say, what are you doing? Tell me about it. And the things that I am most excited about, I say, great, let me give you $10 million. And I'll buy a quarter of your company. And then let's go make that worth more than $10 million. And if all goes well, my 25% of the company ends up worth, $1 billion. But if that's the case, the remaining 75% is worth $3 billion, and everybody is happy. So that's the goal, right? That's what I do. But the reality is that that's just a teeny sliver of the universe, right? So I think typically VCs get up in front of a bunch of entrepreneurs and they say, there is only one world, and the only world that you can have and the only world you should live in is the world of venture capital. And anyone who's building a business that doesn't need venture capital, and anyone who's doing whatever, that's like, second-class citizens. VC is the universe that matters. Well, you know what? It's kind of bullshit, right? Which would you rather do? Would you rather build a business on only credit cards and the profitability of your business and customers' money, and end up it being worth $4 billion, only you own all of it? Or would you rather raise a bunch of venture capital and own half of it getting there? Well, obviously, if you could do it without venture money, that's the better course, right? So why do people take venture money? The answer is that because there are lots of things that become easier with venture capital. Not all. You lose some control over your business, so you can't, I think every single company in which I've invested, if you want to sell that company, you need my permission. Now, do I think that's a good idea? Sure, I do think that's a good idea. Have I gotten in the way of companies that have tried to sell their businesses because I have that right to block them? No, I haven't done that. But I have the right, so that might be troubling to you. I have I now own a quarter of your company. So in order for you to make exactly as much money as you would have made before taking my money, you have to increase the value of your company by 25%. Can you do that with my $10 million? I sure hope so. I always say to people who object to the price a VC is willing to pay or whatever, this is pretty simple math. Like, if you're selling 10% of your company for X number of millions of dollars, and you don't think you can increase the value of your company by more than that 10% with the money, you're an idiot. And if you do, shut the fuck up. Like, those are, like, what is it, this isn't complicated. Like, and if someone will give you a better deal, I can get more money and increase the value, or sometimes I can get less money, but it'll increase the value more, do that deal, right? Venture capital is not a requirement. It's a thing, it is a possibility. And you shouldn't feel any obligation to take it, but you also shouldn't feel bitter when you take my money to try and build a better business, right? I have money. I think it is a tool. And as a venture investor, I'm going to give you a bunch of tools. I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you my time. I'm going to give me my relationships. I'm going to give you my persuasion to try and convince other people to foolishly engage in the things you're engaging in, even though it's insane. And if all goes well, then everybody does well. But it isn't a thing that's required, and it's not a thing that... So when people are, I see this all the time, and I'm constantly fighting the urge to comment back on the blogs, like, stupid VCs screwing us again. Like, I'm sure there are some bad guy VCs, bad women VCs, and I'm not defending them, right? They could do bad things. There are lots of people who could do bad things. But what I'm saying is that venture investment is not morally bad. It is a thing. It is an opportunity. It is unbelievable to me that I have spent 15 minutes already and have discussed nothing. Nothing that you care about. All right, so quickly I will tell you, these are my notes carefully put on an August Capital card. What are the three things? So okay, you want to get venture capital. What do you do if you want to get venture capital? Well, first thing you have to do is you have to meet me, right? And let's use me as a generic, which I am. There are many of me, but let's say for this sake that you want to meet me, David Hornik, at August Capital. How do you do that? You can email me. Guess what? My email is everywhere on the planet. I'm the most trackable, traceable person ever. So you can email me. Should you do that? No. That's a terrible idea. Why? I don't know you. If you know me, feel free to email me. If I don't know you, find someone who knows me and who I like and who likes you. And by the transitive property of this is a good person, get an introduction, right? This is a person who I think is credible, who is building something engaging and interesting. David, you should hear the story. If I hear that from someone that I've backed before, who I think is smart or credible or thoughtful or whatever, you know what I do? I meet with you. If I get an email and it doesn't say that, I don't. Sometimes I do. I actually am probably a rarity in the sense that I actually read every email I get. So if you sent me an email and said, hey, David, you told me not to send this email, I will know that because I will read it. But it won't help you. And you'll just be like, oh, way to not listen to me. So get an introduction. Get your business in front of me. If all goes well, let's say I get 1,000 of those in a year. I get something north of 1,000, but let's say I get 1,000. Of 1,000 of those, 100 of them will turn into meetings with me. Get to spend an hour telling me about your business. So I reach out and say, hey, that sounds great. Let's hear about the business. So what am I looking for when you come in to tell me about your business? There are 3 things that I'm looking for. Well, let's say 4. I am looking for a great team, a group of people who I am excited about, that I want to spend a lot of time working with. I was just chatting with someone about this, the fact that this year is my 20th anniversary with my wife, which is very nice, 20 years with the lovely Pamela Hornik. This year is my 14th anniversary with Renee Lacerte, the founder of PayCycle and now Bill.com. I've been with Renee for 14 of the 20 years I've been with my wife. And I'll tell you, I'll still be working with him in 5 years from now. And then I'll be like, oh, I've been with Renee almost 20 of the 25 years I've been with my wife. My partner, Dave Marquardt, has been on the Microsoft board for 30 some odd years. If Bill Gates was not a fan, that's a lot of years to be stuck with him. And similarly, vice versa. So find people you're excited about working with. The second thing I'm looking for a big market. Why am I looking for a big market? Now, this is where you get to decide, is my business really venture backable, or is it a business that I should try and figure out how to make work on a smaller amount of money? Businesses that have the capacity to be billion-dollar businesses, right? Make hundreds of millions of dollars are very good prospects for the venture business, because I'm going to invest $10 million in your company. I want it to turn into 100. If you have a market that is only addressable opportunity of $100 million, you'd have to capture all of it to create a business that's worth anywhere near what would be required for me to make a return. So find a big giant market, and I'll tell you this. I have never, ever, ever seen a market that started here and got bigger. I've never seen a market expand. I've only seen them get smaller. You say, oh, this is an interesting market. I invest in them all the time. Oh, this is a giant market. Well, actually, we're doing this part. Oh, the product only does this part. Okay, well, actually, we can only do this part. And suddenly your $18 billion market is like a $700 million market, and you go, we better capture a ton of that. So have a big business. So have a great team, have a big business, and lastly, have a great product, although I think that having a great product is really a byproduct of having a great team with vision. I have never also seen a product that got in front of me, whatever it was, software. I invest in consumer and enterprise software. I've never seen a consumer experience that stayed the same. I've never seen an enterprise product that stayed the same. So backing a great product because you think it's the greatest product ever is like saying, is like coming into college assuming you're an economics major and leaving an art history major. If that university had the best economics department in the world and that's what you're betting on and you end up an art history major, you're an idiot. So know you're going to change majors and go to the place that has the most compelling experience. Same is true. Don't assume it's the great product that's going to make this business a big and exciting business. Instead, back a great team that has an idea that makes good sense and that they will morph and understand. I have managed to use up all of my time before even getting into these things. Do I have time for Q&A? Who's in charge here? I'm happy to answer a few questions. Maybe I'll get to the things that I didn't get on, business card number 2. Anyone, questions about venture capital, entrepreneurship, company building, my marriage to my wife? Yes? Do I keep a watch on companies that are getting angel funding so I understand what might be coming up the pipeline? And that's for sure, the pipeline is that. There are a set of people who are starting businesses. By and large, the things that I will fund will be things that have been funded by someone else. That first $1 million, they get angel funding, et cetera. So the short answer is yes. I'm absolutely keeping a broad view of the market and what things are interesting. But I would say that the real answer is I have 1 million friends who that's what they do, right? So by and large, those people who are angel investing in this company are likely to be people with whom I have a relationship. And so they tend to be the people who say, hey, by the way, have you seen blah, blah, blah? Have you seen Patreon? It's really interesting and exciting. No, Josh Felser, I haven't. Let's talk about it. Oh, it's an exciting business, and let me dig in. So still that relationship, that how do I get introduced to a company? There are plenty of people who are surveying the universe. What I would say is, from my perspective, I'm not smart enough to know what are the things that are going to be these next transformative businesses, but I do understand when I get in front of people who are amazing that I want to work with them. Question?
Hey there. If I'm actually one of those 100 people that get a meeting with you,
sweet.
Do I really get a full hour?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
You totally get a full hour. I will tell you that with great certainty, venture capitalists are always late. And so the question is, what will they do? Will they give you the full hour, thus screwing the next person? Although actually what happens is like a dentist's office. You're now set back 15 minutes. So suddenly it's like the meetings that were from 10 to 11, 11 to 12 would become 10 to 10:07 to 11 to 11:07. Up then it becomes 12:20 to whatever. It's very rude and unfortunate. But you do get an hour. You get to pitch your business and tell your hour. And if you get a chance, we just funded this great company called Wattpad, Wattpad. And in the process of talking with these guys about funding them, I created an account and it's a storytelling platform. And so I started writing this story called September Capital, where I talk about the funding process, the beginning of the funding process. So you can read me making fun of my partners for being late, for being indiscriminately late. Yes, sir.
I have a question about the initial part of your talk.
Yes,
Referring to the turtles.
the turtle.
You make it look like a random walk theory and almost like, just throw mud on the wall and whatever sticks, it sticks. Of course, you shoot the ball, but
So from an entrepreneur perspective or an investor perspective?
is it really random? Is it really that random? Or are there parameters that you actually...
Yeah, no, I don't think my process is random at all, right? And I don't think that any one of you is approaching this business randomly. So there's a question was, you talk about these little turtles, but you act as if it's random, like some one turtle is going to get to the ocean and others, and it's random. Two things. One, it is partially not random and it is partially random. It turns out, right, two turtles marching towards the sea, a hungry bird is marching down, it eats one of them, and the one next to him gets to the ocean, right? That is the random part where sometimes it takes good luck, a great market or whatever. Sometimes it takes that. But guess what? The stronger turtles, the turtles with better intuition, the turtles with the focus and drive to get to the ocean are more likely to survive, right? So, not to make too much of an idiotic analogy, but the reality is, like, great entrepreneurs are driven, and they find other smart people to work with them and be excited about it. They find relationships and platforms and partners. And so, is it random? It's not random. But some people who might have otherwise built a billion-dollar business, built this amazing business, don't get funded. It's not a perfect business. So unfortunately, there are moments where the market helps someone else, or the market crushes you. I invested in a company called Nomis, which is a price optimization for financial services business. I've been on that board for 10 years. In that 10 years, the financial services business has collapsed. The banks have merged. Everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. But those entrepreneurs are awesome, and they've powered through. So it matters what the turtle is, but there are moments when it doesn't. When even the best of turtles get eaten. I apparently am out of time. I am very sorry, but I appreciate your time, and I'll look forward to an introduction from someone.